It is May 2026, and inside the White House, the president is preparing to sign a landmark executive order. The document is designed to impose strict safety guardrails on advanced artificial intelligence. For weeks, this policy was sold to the American public as an absolute necessity. Officials warned of rogue AI systems capable of crippling global infrastructure or launching autonomous cyber attacks, and this order was framed as the ultimate shield. But with just hours to go before the ink could hit the paper, the administration abruptly pulled the plug. The signing ceremony was canceled, and the sweeping safety regulations were completely abandoned. The sudden reversal didn't come from a new security assessment or a debate in Congress. It came from the phones of Silicon Valley billionaires. Men like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and venture capitalist David Sachs made direct, last-minute calls to the president. Their argument was simple. They claimed that any government oversight would slow down American innovation, intentionally allowing Chinese tech firms to dominate the global market. This pivot demonstrates a power dynamic where months of federal safety planning can be overridden in a single night. In this environment, the China threat serves as a highly effective lever for private companies to ensure the regulatory field remains wide open. We are constantly told we are in Cold War 2.0, but unlike the first Cold War, where nuclear missiles sat dormant in underground silos, artificial intelligence is an active weapon. It is already operating within global infrastructure and influencing what information reaches our screens. In this conflict, the United States projects a narrative of absolute superiority. Washington points to massive domestic investments in energy-hungry data centers and cutting-edge chip design as proof that America is winning the race. When mapping global AI patents, China has secured a massive 60% majority. This volume creates a hidden vulnerability for the West. Regardless of how many physical data centers America builds, the underlying blueprints for future algorithms are increasingly controlled by Beijing. Yet for all the billions spent in Silicon Valley and Shenzhen, both towering empires are entirely dependent on a single 14,000 square mile island, Taiwan. Taiwanese semiconductor foundries manufacture the advanced microchips that make large language models possible. Without this specific supply chain, the hardware development in both the U.S. and China would immediately grind to a halt. If the facilities in Taiwan stop running, the entire global AI stack, both American and Chinese, simply ceases to function. Despite the aggressive posturing, neither superpower actually controls the physical foundation of its own technological survival. To bypass American export controls on those advanced chips, Chinese developers have pivoted. Companies there are now using open-source tactics, releasing highly efficient models to directly undercut the expensive closed systems built in the U.S. History repeats itself. In the 90s, closed-source Microsoft waged war against open-source Linux. Today, that same dynamic plays out between closed models like OpenAI and China's open-source models. Monopolies eventually absorb the open-source communities that threaten them, turning collaborative tools into proprietary assets. We saw this when Microsoft, the former enemy of open source, literally purchased GitHub, the world's largest open-source repository. Billionaires today deploy open-source models as a blunt strategic instrument. By flooding the market with powerful, free-to-use AI, they can effectively vaporize the subscription revenue of their direct competitors, turning a public resource into a weapon of market attrition. In this geopolitical standoff, the phrase open source rarely means freedom of information. It is a highly effective tactical weapon deployed by corporate empires to bankrupt their rivals. When we step back and look at the grand stage, the actions of both Washington and Beijing start to align. The lofty claims of saving humanity from rogue code or securing national sovereignty for future generations begin to look remarkably hollow. They are rhetorical smokescreens designed to keep the public focused on external threats. What we are actually watching is a war of egos among global elites. They are fighting to hold the ultimate remote control, the infrastructure that will dictate our digital wallets, harvest our personal data, and curate our daily reality. We have to stop letting ourselves be swept up by the manufactured panic broadcast by either side of this conflict. Artificial intelligence is just a tool. The real danger lies entirely in the human egos competing to wield it. It is up to us to remain critical, to question the motives behind the technology we use every day, and to refuse to be played as pawns on their chessboard. So tell us in the comments, who will ultimately win this digital ego war?